Hello, it's Father Rich. I'm here back in front of the mantle and fireplace of the Rectory of Our Lady of Peace for our next masterpiece, number 60. And the reason I'm here is primarily because of the animal depicted in this version of the flight into Egypt, which is a wood carving that I received from the Holy Land, out of the olive wood of the Holy Land. But the main protagonist, the character of this masterpiece, is a donkey. And again, it was a masterpiece I'd never heard of. It's a film called Hasard du Balthasar. Balthasar is the donkey, and it's by Robert Bresson, a film from 1966. And it talks about the fact that Bresson wanted to deal with Bresson, wanted to depict, I guess, in this movie, kind of the harshness of this world that had become more selfish and materialistic. So he makes the donkey out to be kind of this saintly figure that is holy and innocent. And he's kind of a beast of burden. That was one reason that he depicted the donkey as the lead character. And also because the resonance with biblical stories, obviously this being one of them. But of course, Jesus being triumphantly carried by a donkey into Jerusalem. We know the depiction with the donkey on the way to Bethlehem and the nativity story. And typically most scenes have a donkey in it. So all those kind of bring that upon it. But he talks about how you kind of see this, like I said, the selfishness and kind of the brutality and self-focusedness of the humanity. And we see the donkey actually get mistreated by humans. And again, it kind of has me curious to see it. It's an hour-and-a-half film. They say that Jean-Luc Godard once described this film as the real world in an hour and a half. And Bresson revealed it to be a world filled with pain, suffering, and injustice. So it ends with, well, we'll let you watch it yourself, but a kind of a somber moment in which, but they say kind of points to the mystical and the sacred. So this Robert Bresson was a French. He was born in France in 1901. He started as a photographer and an artist, but then eventually decided to give his shot at cinema. He would make the distinction between cinema and cinematography. He really saw his calling to use the movie medium to move people, to stir their hearts, but not through excessive acting and excessive use of words. So he has kind of a unique approach to cinema, kind of seeing it as an artistic approach. He had 13 films that he did, and none of them were really successful. But the early ones that really stood out, Diary of a Country Priest, 1951. That was an adaptation of the Bernanos novel about an unnamed priest struggling with doubts about God and his own inadequacy for the job. He also did A Man Escaped, 1956. The Pickpocket, 1959. Kind of reminiscent of Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. And then I think those were, and then Notes. Okay, yeah, those are most of his early films that really were probably more significant. It kind of talks about how he saw a film as being more about the content or the form more than the content. So again, going back to what I was talking about earlier. So he wanted to allow three principles to come out in his approach to cinema. The first that he found himself actually going to amateur actors because he wanted them to downplay their acting, almost to a point of being somewhat stoic and less emotional, because he didn't want the emotions of the acting to distract from the bigger point of the moving the heart of the viewer. His second principle was an emphasis on the film's soundtrack, but again, not on music that's going to try to impact the person, but more on the noises. And at one point he says the noises must become the music. He wasn't afraid of silence as well, and yeah, just kind of allowing the noise more to kind of move the story along. His third principle was the limited movement of the camera. Again, he didn't want to do all these amazing camera angles and movements that would take away from the person doing the work of kind of encountering the message. And he really focused on the details of the form, and again, not so much on the content. So he would talk about how he wanted to kind of strip away kind of the excessive acting and music and things we think about with cinema in order to force the soul to kind of come out and come to its own conclusions. He wanted to keep it somewhat in mystery to kind of force the soul and the individual to do the work of drawing conclusions from what was being expressed. Everything should not be shown, or there is no art. Art lies in suggestion, he would say. Mysteries should be preserved. Since we live in mystery, mystery should be on the screen. So he says, hide the ideas, but so that people find them. The most important will be the most hidden. So again, to accomplish this required great focus and economy of means on the part of the director, a rigorous and austere quest for purity of expression. So again, wanting that kind of the individual and the soul to do the work of making the conclusions and letting the work of the art, the cinema, to set the stage, but then them to kind of draw the conclusions. And again, I have to admit, when art, does this, which is probably pretty, a good way to approach art, and that's probably the more artistic people appreciate that. I struggle with that. I kind of appreciate when a movie kind of spells things out for you. That's probably why I struggle with a lot of these masterpieces that are movies in here, because they kind of require you to do a lot of interpreting and, kind of the energy of entering in and kind of figuring it out and reflecting on it. So that's the Hasard du Balthasar, a film from 1966 by Robert Bresson. Our next masterpiece will be Andrei Rublev, another film of 1966. This one I actually did get a chance to see, so we look forward to talking more next time. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day, and God bless.